in at number 74 is the Clint Eastwood-directed Uber Western called Unforgiven, which came out in 1992. And this was the Western that he wanted to build and bring out into the world as kind of a message against all of the violence that he had put on screen with his previous work in the Western genre. He plays a character named William Money who has kind of had it. He's trying to find a life of peace, but he gets dragged back into this really complicated plot.
I thought maybe you was someone come to kill me for something I'd done in the old days.
The Schofield kid decides that he's going to take one of those wanted posters and he's going to track down the bounty on them. And what happens is a couple of bad guys, rustlers, they have gone into town and they got into a scrape with one of the ladies of the evening. And so he took a knife to her and cut up her face. So the ladies decide to pool all their money and they put a bounty out on these two guys. And who answers but this kid, the Schofield kid? He decides to go find William Money, bring him out of retirement. He decides to go find Morgan Freeman, his friend Ned, and bring him with him. So the three of them head into this town that has one of the strangest sheriffs I've ever seen, played by Gene Hackman. Plays a character named Little Bill.
You just shot an unarmed man.
This whole movie in general is interesting because of what it does to explode a lot of the myths about cowboys. And it really is a movie that's about myth-making. I mean, we see cowboys who are struggling with alcoholism. We see cowboys talking about how they get through the night, whether they pleasure themselves. We see cowboys who cry after they've killed somebody.
It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. Take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have.
Well, it's a maturity for the genre, you know, and it was an Academy Award-winning film. It was a very highly accomplished piece of movie making, and it was also Eastwood at the top of his game.
He's been at the top of his game for decades.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
this man doesn't let up.
He doesn't let up, but this was a movie that really brought the house down.
Any man don't want to get killed, better clear on out the back.
You know what I love about this is also the way that it sort of deconstructs the myth of the cowboy, because English Bob, played by Richard Harris, comes riding into town. He decides he's going to collect on this bounty before William Money and Ned and the Schofield kid get there. English Bob has come into town with his own biographer, played by Saul Rubinek. Now, this guy is just writing down things that English Bob does that are awesome. And what Gene Hackman does is he rights all of those wrongs. He says, all these things that English Bob has told you about, it's all BS. Let me tell you what really happened. But what happens is he takes the biographer for himself and decides to build his own myth. So this guy is following him around as a fan, as a myth maker, as a record keeper, as somebody who is building the myths that sort of carried the Old West forward.
Yeah, and it's also a message, I think, from Eastwood talking about this storytelling that erupted out of this. Hollywood was a big machine for telling stories about cowboys back in the day. Hollywood was cowboys. It was, the Wild West was actually still around.
Central casting was all cowboys.
Absolutely, and so this is kind of that message as well. Another thing that sets this movie apart from the maturity and thematic grace of the film, is the look of it as well. I mean, it's darker, it's grittier, it feels a lot more earthy. I mean, you see the crags on the actors' faces, you see the weathering, you see the despair, you see that this was lonely work, you see that this could really drag people down. You know, it wasn't just John Wayne, Dudley Do-Right, Lone Ranger type stuff. It wasn't Gene Autry. This was a different deal.
Just because we're going on this killing, that don't mean I'm gonna go back to being the way I was.
You know, and the other thing that you see constantly is how nervous people are when they're holding guns. Because it's usually you just see the confident, cocky cowboy pointing guns at each other, and you see everybody's heart pounding, they're breathing hard, they're shaking as they're holding guns. And when it comes down to the climactic gunfight, and obviously there is one here, and I'm spoiling it a little bit, you see everybody in the tavern just fumbling with their guns, except for Clint Eastwood, who has remained calm through all the years, and he's the reason why he survived so many moments like this. And that's probably closer to what the Old West was like.
And also, it's an analogy to Clint Eastwood and his career in Hollywood as well. He's always just remained calm,
cool guy,
remained steady,
let everybody else fumble,
and made awesome movies for so long, and this is one of his best here.
Oh man, I really enjoyed this movie. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and man, I'm glad it is in our collection, my friend.
I was lucky in the order, but I've always been lucky when it comes to killing folks.
That's a couple of Westerns on our list so far, but you gotta get out to see Unforgiven somehow. Go rent it, go download it, get this movie. It's number 74 of our Top 100.